Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
Welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And we are back with another happy hour, but we're calling this, I guess, an unhappy hour. I don't know. It's a life check hour.
Okay.
Adding new names to things. But before we start, as always, if you are drinking or partaking of anything to enjoy this episode, be responsible and take care of yourself. Always take care of yourself. And if we're talking about product, we're not necessarily being sponsored by that product currently. Things change, who knows? But none of the things that we're talking about today is a current sponsor as of now. So, Anney, what are you sipping on?
Light beer. Light beer. It's my last one.
Oh.
This is good because I'm trying to clear out my fridge. And this is a happy occasion.
That's an interesting goal. Like, I know cleaning it out, but you're like trying to like empty it out.
No, it's packed. I had friends over this weekend. They opened it up and like gasped loud.
Really?
It's never packed. No, because it's all stuff I'm saving for other things.
Oh.
Like I have my Dungeons and Dragons beer that I've been saving for Dungeons and Dragons forever and like a bunch of stuff like that. So
No.
It's all right.
Which we have to get an update after your next one, obviously, of your Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. I'm sticking with my bubbly water. It's been a rough few days, so I don't drink that much. Let's just get down to it. That's just who I am now. We did go and celebrate together not too long ago, and I had a couple of drinks. Like I had literally 2 drinks. I woke up hungover. It is not fun. I do not like this. So I've decided I don't think I'm going to drink that much at all, if I do at all. Because maybe it's the sugary drinks. Maybe it's just because I can't take it anymore. And maybe that I've just been really dizzy a lot lately, and so it doesn't help. Who knows? Maybe I have vertigo. Who knows? Self-diagnosing all the time. But before we start with this episode, it put a content warning. We're going to talk about death and religious trauma, in general, aging, I guess, because there's a lot when it comes to this. So if y'all don't want to listen to me whine about aging, y'all might want to hop off because I get it. Also, but if you want to hear about my quirky family, stick around, y'all. Stick around. But yeah, so with that, just recently lost my aunt, my dad's sister. She has been in care for a while. She's had dementia apparently for a long time, and it's gotten worse. Her husband, who also passed away earlier, at the end of last year, so about 5 months ago. So, and he was going through a pretty harsh bout of dementia as well, that he was getting kind of volatile because he was so unaware. And a little bit of paranoia had stepped in, but he has, him and his wife, my aunt and my uncle, their children are like, 2 of them are nurses and one of them work at like a care facility for dementia patients specifically, which I didn't realize existed in LJ, Georgia, but it does. And so they were under good care. And I think they were comfortable, as people like to say, towards the end. My dad is significantly younger than his other siblings because he was the baby. He's a baby of the family. He's still in his 60s. He's still in his late 60s, but like they were 80s, like they're in their 80s. I have 2 aunts left on that side of the family. My mom's side of the family, they both still exist, and they're not that much older, actually. Their age is a little bit different. But so my other 2 aunts are in their 80s as well, and I don't see my family often, especially that side of the family. Actually, either side of the family. I don't go to a lot of family get-togethers. I don't know if that's part of my like trauma and my anxiety and in general, and when it comes to my attachment theories and family, biological family, which I don't hold dear oftentimes. Like I am very loyal and I love my immediate family and I will fight for them, but I also will criticize them very quickly and understanding that they are wrong in so many ways, just like I am, I'm sure. But for me, like seeing any kind of racist or bigotry, which happens a lot because they stand on their religious beliefs as a part of their reasoning for this, I don't do too well in any of that. And this side of the family is very old-fashioned. I'm trying to keep this respectful. They're very old-fashioned, and some of the beliefs that I grew up with, I've talked about this before, there's not even really a name for this sect of Baptists. Like, I've heard foot washing Baptist. I've heard there was another one, Country Baptist, Primal First Baptist, I think is what it's called. But I think, like, when I read it, like, that's not the same thing, because they don't necessarily believe in tongues. They don't believe in, like, snake handling. They're not a Pentecostal, that old school Pentecostal ideal, because new Pentecostals is a different level too. They don't believe, like, they don't believe in seminaries. They think that's going against the Spirit in general. They're very old King James Version only. I think my parents kind of have stepped away from that, realizing, this is a little old-fashioned. Maybe we should look around. No pants in church, no women speaking, no deacons, all those things you get called on. And when I say called on, you just get a feeling, essentially, about, like, becoming a preacher or speaking or any of that. And you can be young. Like, they don't care how old you are. If you say you have the calling, which is what they call it, then you can be a preacher. I think I've met 17-year-old preachers who lead churches and become the leader of churches. And you're like, what the f? All that to say. So really odd. Like, I remember one service, this dude got up and yelled and preached about how women were wearing makeup were sinners and causing people to sin. And this is what's wrong with the world. And I was like, what's that? What's happening? Even to the point that my family was like, no. Like, they were like, but they allowed it. Like, it's all these things. So with all that, that's that side of the family. And the reason I'm giving y'all this heads up, my partner, who his mom is religious, like, in that she prays and she will read the Bible, and she used to go to church. She has also very understanding. She's very liberal. She is all about women's rights. She is all about understanding. Like, she and I align politically very well. And she's like, like a Democrat who's trying to see things through. Like, it has been working for the party since her college years. Like, she was one of the first, I think, women to be a part of that association and looking at women's rights and votings and all that. So very cool. So that's as religious, I think. And then I think his father was Catholic, I believe he told me, but not religious. So all that to say is I had to prepare him for what my service was. And I went to the extreme of, like, okay, look, imagine, again, this is where I'm like, I'm pretty sure, much like many of things, especially when you go into the times of enslavement and all that, where you had lower class white people who were not enslaved but not well off and, like, stealing from Black culture. Like, I think this is where this is coming from, because my church, I had to explain it as, imagine you're listening to a Black preacher, so a little more cinematic, a little more drama, but they're screaming, yelling at you. Sometimes with a sing-songy voice, with things that don't make sense and probably have some bigoted statements. And then they take one verse from the Bible and they rant about it for a good 30 minutes. And it may have nothing to do with the actual chapter of the Bible. Like, so I have to explain this. And they will do this at a funeral. And oftentimes they have 3 or 4 pastors. So, I told them it very proud. I was like, it may be an hour. It may be 30 minutes. It may be 3 hours. We don't know. So he was just like, oh, damn. And I was like, and I don't know. Sometimes they do some odd things. And this might include literally washing people's feet, telling people to come to the front to pray individually, get laid hands, like, which doesn't sound unusual when you're not used to all of these elements. I was like, you just are going to have to prepare. You might have people shouting, like literally screaming for no reason. But so all of these things, and it sounds like I'm trying to scare people, but when I told him and he came in, it wasn't as bad. as I thought. Like, I gave him the worst case scenarios of what I've seen, but it wasn't that bad. We did have an older man who I'm sure had pretty severe emphysema, trying to yell sing-songy, but not even sing-songy, it just becomes yelling, preaching about the mystical ideas of heaven. We'll just keep it at that. Like, I'm trying to imagine, like, how to say this. And I forgot to tell him, because different people have different practices, that they do leave the casket open. Not only that, like, you go before, see the family, see the casket open. They have it for a couple of days. It's not necessarily a wake, because there's no fun part to this, except for people who, get to reminisce and see each other. And then coming in, and then you walk around the casket to see them again. And I have to put on a big show and then hug everyone, even if you don't know everyone, which, by the way, I forgot half of the people. I was like, oh, and he was going to go with me because he's a supportive partner. And I was like, you don't want to do this. And as he was watching everybody, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to stay back here. Because for him, as he's met my immediate family, and as in fact he had met one of my aunts, he now met the entire family, whom I don't even talk to as much. And this is also a part of the family who have pretty bigoted ideas and made sure to publicly humiliate people who they felt are wrong. And that could be like, whether it's queer. I was apparently talked about, oh no, she went to Atlanta, which means the devil got a hold of me, essentially, that I have turned away from Jesus. And they talked about it. They talked about the fact that Samantha's gone to Atlanta. Oh no. Like that. So this is that same side of the family that did all of this and that has all this conversation. So trying to prepare my partner for this was surreal, but also with all of these things, and I'm laughing a little bit about it, like, because there's moments where I like tried not to laugh during, because everything I was telling him, I could tell that he was like, oh God, like when you bring someone to something and you don't mean to, but it becomes kind of a show that you're like, oh, but in like laughing because it's that moment of like, this is my life. If this was a movie, this was what like having those moments. But with that, I also witnessed my father kissing his sister for the last time, who was not present because she was dead. Seeing that, like having that as a scene, but also seeing the fact that this is, out of the 5 siblings that he has, there's 6 of them. There's only 2 left. And the first thing he said to me was like, so-and-so, one of my aunts who I hadn't seen in years, was like, she looks frail, doesn't she? She looks like she's gotten older, which I think she looked. I was like, actually, I think she looks great. She looks much better than I thought. And she has been a smoker for the past 70 years, like 65 years. Like, she's been smoking for 65 years. And she still looks great. Like, she's still walking, and there's no walker, and there's no, like, she's coherent, she can hear me well, like all these things at 81. And to me, she doesn't look 81. And my other aunt, who is at 84, 82, I think she's 84, also looks great and is very coherent. And like I've seen her a few times because she comes to our family stuff, and like, it's good to see. But knowing that he is watching them age, and then I'm watching my father and my mother age as well. And there's so many unspoken things there that I feel like I have a level of guilt and shame, but at the same time, like, also a little bit of resentment lying here. And then also this takes me to, and I've talked about this previously, wanting to try to find my biological family, but wondering if any of them are alive. I don't know the ages of my biological family. And then knowing that my biological father, I don't know the history with him. I don't know if he actually knew that I was going to be adopted. I don't know if he actually knew I was ever placed in an orphanage, because he was not a part of that family decision, from what I'm aware of. Like, all of these things. There's so many things that I can't grab. So all of these things are tumbling on top of me with the death of my aunt, who, honestly, I was close with her for a while, but I distanced myself from them because I very heavily disagreed with a lot of things that they have done when it comes to like personal opinions and such. 2016 really f***ed up a lot of relationships. And I really think that that's part of this for me, and trying to figure all of this out, and with that, figure all this out, figure my identity out, figure out my like place in my family, which feels uncertain, or at least like damaged, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how else to say that. And then with that, because we have gone so differently in our opinions and our makeup, like me going away from social work to this podcast really brought a barrier down, really brought some things down that I think my parents are somewhat ashamed of, like that's this level. So I don't know. And because I now know that I'm the cousin who went to Atlanta and lost her way, but also when I do see them and I do hug them and I do talk to them, and this is meant to be a compliment, but it still kind of gets me. It's like, I love you as one of my own, which is said to me a lot. That I'm like, I know I'm supposed to receive that with openness, but you need to understand this, like that context of being like a white savior, like that everyone that I hear from, as well as people who hear my story, they're like, oh my God, your parents are amazing. They really took you in as one of your own. I'm like, I feel like a dog. I feel like a puppy, which don't get me wrong. My puppy is very loved and she is one of mine. Mm-hmm. All of that. So there's so many things that presses on me in this time. And because of those types of moments and those kind of like resentments or being maybe feeling like maybe they're ashamed of me or like disappointed in me because I'm not what they had hoped. I'm not the token that they had hoped I would be. There lies this level of anxiety. I have been anxious for 4 days, knowing that I was going to this funeral, knowing that I was going to see the family, and knowing that I had to portray this. Like, obviously, I'm already uncomfortable with death. Everybody's uncomfortable with death to a certain degree. I went through that period and everybody who goes through this, and I know you know, of like experiencing death and then somehow revolving around some significant things that make you think, oh, this is the sign of something bigger. Mm-hmm. And it's not good. This is an ominous like stance. Like all of these things feel like it's piling up on this. So the anxiety coming at this point, like the last 5 days, my like Ritz crackers, not a sponsor, y'all. And I know we're probably supposed to be like boycotting them somehow. I don't know, because every brand needs to be boycotted. I understand, but have been like my source of food, that and fruit. Like that's all I've been eating because my anxiety won't let me eat any of that on top of all of these things. And then going to the funeral, I took a half a diazepam. Thank you, Dr. Warner, who helped me with my teeth because he's the one that prescribed me, and I had a few left over. And I was like, yeah, need that. To going through that. I was like able to make it through without like feeling like I was going to break, have a panic attack. My partner, again, accompanying me to this was significant. It was one of those things like, you don't have to come, but if you don't come, this is going to impact our relationship. Which he knew, like he wouldn't even, that wasn't even a thought. Like he absolutely showed up. But all of those things have left me in such an odd state. Like it's a pause, it's a fog where everything feels trivial, nothing quite makes sense, but I feel like it shouldn't affect me this much. And it could be that we are not over the world's disaster. So when some small personal thing happens, it feels like that's the final drop that makes everything crack. And that could be what it was. And I will say, even though I was also close to my uncle who passed away 5 months ago, it didn't feel like this. I don't know what the shock is. I don't know what this is. It doesn't quite make sense for me. But like all of these things, like opening myself up personally and being like, welcome to the chaos of my family, I'm sorry. And trying to like build that up to realizing we're all aging. I'm watching my face age. I'm watching my hairs turn gray, being 40s. And I know that's not old. And I don't feel old, except for every now and again, my body is like pop, 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 pop. Don't get up. But like aging, like just watching that happen on top of like feeling like I might be losing chances with the fact that I still don't have a firm grasp of culture, of my culture, of a culture in general, because I feel like I'm borrowing Southern culture because I was placed here you know? And so those things, with the anxiety, with the panic, with the crisis that's happening in the United States, with the crisis that's happening internationally, and feeling like everything is falling apart, that bridge falling, you're like, what the is happening? I saw a video of all the I thought that the cicadas all turning gay. You're welcome, Anney. I hope you
Wow, thanks.
took a deep dive in that. With me sending you that article, I mean. Not that they're turning gay.
I
did
got
that for you.
like first thing in the morning. It's like the first thing I read this morning. I was like, oh. Okay.
I was like, how did I jump here? Like, I know cicadas are coming, but they're gay? Like, what? Okay.
Hey.
Nature. But all of these things, it feels huge to me. And I know this is a neurotic view of like what's actually happening. And again, like, she was my aunt and I loved her and I haven't seen her in a while. And I feel like this shouldn't have been the catalyst that pushed me into this point, but somehow I'm here and like feeling like I can't organize it. Does that make sense? Even as I'm telling you this, I'm like, I think I just made this like even more confusing.
No, that makes sense. This is a very like much lower key situation, but hopefully the metaphor will stand. One time I was at physical therapy and I was just like visibly upset. And the guy, my therapist, was like, trying to get to the bottom of what was wrong. And I was like, I feel like I'm not giving you standard numbers. Like, you always ask me, like, how much pain I'm in.
Right.
I feel like I'm not giving you standard numbers. And he was like, but it doesn't really matter if, like, this day, even if that pain yesterday was just a 2 for you, if now it's a 4,
Right.
Is it a 4? Like, so I think, like, it makes sense. You and I do this a lot where we're trying to, like, especially in our job, you're always trying to, like, put into place, like, on a scale.
Right.
Like, it should be here. But sometimes it's just not how it works. And like, it is also all related, like it's true the world is in total chaos. We have had a lot of friends, a lot of people in our life that are having illnesses, scares, deaths. Like, that's going to impact you. So I don't think like those things, it feels like it should be logical in a way, but it's just not really, it doesn't fit into that.
Right. I mean, maybe absolutely is like my avoidant personality and being like, I will not be a weepy girl. And yes, I'm saying this is a very sexist, like internalized misogyny that I have, that if I can't logically walk through this and if I allow for something that a death is hard and painful, but like I'm rationalizing why it shouldn't be as a big deal to me personally. Mm-hmm. Like these are all these things that I'm like, this shows that I have strength. Because like, there's also this part of me, like, I'm like, I've grown up with loss. Like, that is what I know. Like, that is this, like, I've always prepared for loss. Like, inevitably, this pessimist inside of me is like, yeah, everybody's going to leave, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like. But also, in understanding that my reactionary response has changed, but hasn't. And that whole just shut down, which I have partially done, but at the same time, like, denial. Because I feel like I don't have time for this. Mm-hmm. Well, all of that to say, it's been an interesting, like, and also trying to be, I'm not a planner. I'm not a type A person. I'm absolutely like the, like, laid back, low key, no, that's not true. I take up what is needed. That's actually my personality. If I need to lead, I will, but I'd rather not. So I'll let other people lead if there's other people who lead. Like that's my personality type. But like, so having this, like, wanting to prep my partner, like I went and bought clothes for him to be like, we need to be all in black. And then I showed up and everybody was in red. I was like, what? Because apparently it's their favorite color. And I was like, oh, okay, well, everybody's in bright spring. And my mother was in beautiful, very pretty spring colors. I was like, and we looked like we just came out of an episode of Matrix. So like, like it was just like, oh, okay. My partner was like, I think we're too black. And I was like, nah, we're good. Because this is what I would wear every day anyway. But it was a whole thing. But I would, in panic mode, trying to buy things for me and him because that was the level, like, I have to do this, and let me plan ahead for this. And like, even though it was, again, unnecessary, but this is the level that I pushed into this reaction. My reaction was like, okay, let's overcompensate this way. Also prepping him. I'll be like, the church I went to is odd. I'm gonna tell you. Like, people who I would have as visitors would be scared. I think one person almost cried that I took as a kid.
Oh, gosh.
When I don't think people understand the scale. I'm kind of, yeah, because it's not just like the movies where they scream at you about going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. That's not what it is. I don't understand this brand, but I grew up with it. It was normal to me. I didn't realize till later what it was. Maybe it was to wake you up. I don't know. Kids were falling asleep all the time. Who knows? But yeah, so it's been a lot. The last week has been odd. Also, I like didn't tell many people because I think I've talked about this before. I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, it just, like, it feels, but I would be upset if someone else didn't tell me. Someone,
Mm-hmm.
like, if you hadn't, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, but I don't know how to do that because it feels unimportant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. And I've told you I have a real concern with, because you were so kind to me. All my friends were so kind to me when my dad died. It's so good. And I was like, I don't know if I could be as good as that. Like, there are things that get in your head.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about those things. So I totally get that. Like, I've done that too, where I just won't tell someone and then someone's like, wait, what?
And it's kind of one of those things that you like, I just don't know how to bring it up. It just doesn't feel right. Also, again, I freeze. But when I freeze, I literally like, no, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up to cook. I don't want to get up to order things. I don't want to text anyone.
Yeah. And then when you tell them, you don't know what to say.
Right.
You're kind of like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. So it's almost like it's more, well, now I've got to deal with this because I told this person who's just trying to help. But like, it is true. Like, it's going to be some extra thing.
Yeah.
When maybe you just don't want to deal with the extra thing.
Exactly. And that's like, it is. But yeah, and with that, yeah, I'm then in a fog. I warned you earlier, and I think I warned listeners previously as well. Essentially, like, it just feels like, which I think I'm still suffering from brain fog from like pandemic stuff, and maybe I'm gonna put everything in there. Pandemic. I've had COVID before, and it was a rough one, and I've had I think maybe perimenopause. Who knows? I'm gonna put all this brain fog together. So like times 5. That's right. I said it. But just feeling lost. Like, I can't even grasp fully next steps in jobs. Next steps in, like, not in jobs. I'm like, but like what our next episode or doing what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. And just like, I'm already a procrastinator, so that doesn't help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm always here and you were great for me. So we can support each other in this. But it is really hard when you just can't convince yourself to do anything.
Right.
So I get you.
I mean, I get to look at the bright future of watching new moon and eclipse. So there's that.
There is that. I hope that it does bring you some joy in this time. I will be watching it tomorrow. So
excited.
Yeah.
I hope you text me with all the great reactions. I'm going to need you to.
Oh my God. I don't know what to expect.
You don't.
Well, thank you for sharing, Samantha. And yes, listeners, if you have any thoughts about grief or preparing a significant other for grief in your family? Because it's a lot of stuff. Well, you can write to us. You can email us at stephanieandmomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite show.